We are investigating Myrtle Point, Oregon. This was reported by a woman who was 19 years old at the time. Even though the incident occurred many years ago, we have omitted details that describe the exact location of the incidents, as the area is private and is still occupied. The location was outside of the town of Myrtle Point, Oregon, where my parents lived on 10 acres. I didn't live with them at the time, but had walked to their place from town that day and met them on the road as they were driving into town. They were going out for the evening and told me I could spend the night at the house and they would see me later on. It was late in the afternoon when I arrived at that house and just went in and watched TV for a while. After about an hour or so, I heard the dogs barking. They often barked at deer that would come near the house, so I peeked out the window behind the couch where I sat to see if I could see them. I didn't see anything, but smelled what I thought was the septic tank. It was awful. Went back to watching TV. It was getting darker now, and I could hear the dogs again. But they were screeching, and saw them run past our front door. The door was all glass panes, so I could easily see out, and heard them run into the garage. That smell again. It was stronger, and I looked out the window again to see why the dogs ran away. But still, nothing. Soon I heard the noise outside the window I had been looking out of. Someone was walking on the plank just outside the window, and sounded like he was headed toward the front door. So I sat back and looked at the door to see who it was when they would walk past. I saw a tall, dark figure walking past the door, but it was in stride. Its head turned and saw me watching. It stopped at the door and turned toward me. It stood there watching me, and in my fear I must have passed out, because the next thing I remember was my parents picking me up off the floor. How I ended up there, I'll never know, but my folks said I was white as a ghost and were afraid when they saw me that I was dead. My dad ran out the door right away with a flashlight in hand when I was able to tell him what happened, but I was sure it had been hours past and it had rained. He came back with nothing. The creature was taller than the door, but was slightly hunched when it was walking past the door. The eyes were small compared to the size of its head, and the eyes were piercing. It had hair all over, but I could see its skin easily, and could see that it was female by its breasts, which had less hair. Its face was rather flat, and the head was long. It had a short neck. I'll never forget those eyes. It was a couple of months after I graduated from high school, somewhere around the fall of 1971. I was 19 at the time. I had heard of other landowners in this area seeing Bigfoot, the surrounding areas. I never paid attention until after I'd seen this Bigfoot. After the incident, I found other reports in the area at the local library. This happened just before dusk. The area was covered in pines and shrubs. A creek ran behind the house. The house stood between two ridges, and you had to drive down the road to get to the house. Here is a follow-up investigation by BFRO investigator Christy Sanders. States the witness was very credible, and she vividly recalled the incidents. I conducted an interview with her, providing more details. It was walking past the glass doors, and it saw me, and it stopped and turned towards the door. It was only 10 feet away, and it was taller than a door. It was a bit hunched, and it could see into the house. Both of us made eye contact, and I fainted. My parents found me on the floor, pale white. I could tell it was female because there were breasts. It seemed like a young animal, and I could see the skin on the creature. It had sparse hair on the front part. The skin was sort of a tan color. I estimated it to be about 7 feet tall and 5 inches based on the height of the door. So 7'5". The thing that stood out most was the eyes. The eyes were small in proportion to the rest of its face. It had a long face, like somebody with an elongated head, maybe 2/3 larger than a human face. The eyes were almost almond-shaped, like a monkey's. The eyes looked to be brown. It had a flat nose, flatter than a human's. I didn't notice any eyebrows. I did notice small ears. They weren't stuck out. They were more pressed against the head. It turned its head, looked into the house, and then it stopped, and it saw me. It froze, and then turned the whole body toward me. It looked like a healthy animal. It seemed intelligent, and it did not look afraid. It looked curious. I did not feel as if I was going to be attacked, but fainted anyway. I had never even heard of Bigfoot when I saw the animal, and my parents told me there was something that people had seen that was similar to my description. I went to the library to read about the animal. I saw a guy on television who said he saw one across the lake, that the thing that stood out to him the most was the eyes. And I definitely agree. After getting over the fear, the incident was burned in my mind. I remember it very vividly.